The alien fleet floated above the blue planet like a wall of steel, their giant ships covering the skies. From orbit, Earth looked small, fragile, already beaten. The war had lasted years, and the aliens believed they had crushed human resistance. Their commanders relaxed in their control rooms, certain that the final strike was near. Across the fleet, crews worked calmly, scanning for any last human ships trying to escape. For the invaders, this was no longer a war, but the slow process of cleaning up a conquered world. Yet, in the middle of that false sense of victory, something happened that no one could explain. It began as a faint static in the communication lines. At first, alien technicians thought it was interference from Earth's atmosphere. But the static grew stronger until it drowned out all regular transmissions. Voices from the command channels vanished, replaced by a low hum that made every alien in the fleet stop and listen.
Ow.
Then, without warning, a new voice broke through, a human voice, calm and steady. It spoke in perfect alien tongue, every syllable sharp and clear, echoing across all ships and stations at the same time.
Ow.
Your fate is already sealed. The voice carried no anger, no fear, no rush. It was as if the speaker already knew the outcome of everything. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the signal ended. Silence followed. In the command center of the alien flagship, Admiral Krass's claws tapped against the steel armrest of his chair. "Trace it," he ordered sharply. But his technicians were already panicking. The voice had not come from any ship in space, nor from Earth's surface. It had come from everywhere at once, flooding their systems in a way they had never seen. "Before, it's impossible," one officer stammered. "No one can access every channel like this, not without our encryption codes." Krass's eyes narrowed. "Then someone has them." But even that didn't make sense. The codes changed daily, sometimes hourly, and were stored in isolated systems. No human should have been able to get near them. The aliens dismissed the message as a form of human psychological warfare. They had seen such tactics before, desperate lies meant to scare an enemy into retreat. But that confidence lasted only minutes. Reports started coming in from the supply fleet stationed behind the main armada. 4 cargo ships had gone missing, no distress calls, no signs of battle. They were simply gone. Krass demanded sensor scans, but the scans returned nothing. Not even debris. The ships had vanished as if they had never existed. In one of the smaller warships, a young alien lieutenant watched his radar screen flicker strangely. Green dots representing their own ships blinked once, then disappeared, replaced by empty space. At first, he thought it was a glitch. But then, as he checked other systems, he realized every record of those ships had been erased. Even the fleet's central archive showed no history of them. He felt his skin tighten. "Admiral, something is rewriting our logs," he reported. The response he got was short. "Find the source." Now, far below, hidden deep beneath the ruins of a destroyed human city, Captain Rhea Holt leaned back in her chair, eyes fixed on the holographic display in front of her. The alien ships above Earth glowed like red stars on her map, and she smiled faintly as more of them began to fade away. Around her, a small team of human survivors worked quietly, each wearing headsets connected to stolen alien technology. Had been planning this for months. The broadcast, the disappearance of the ships, it was only the beginning. "They'll think it's a trick," Rhea said softly. "Let them. The more they doubt, the easier it gets." Back in orbit, Admiral Krass ordered his fleet to tighten formations. No ship was to travel alone. Every squadron was to maintain visual contact with at least 2 others. It was the safest strategy against stealth attacks, but deep inside, Krass knew something felt wrong. This was not a normal enemy tactic. There had been no explosions, no evidence of weapons. It was like the humans were, erasing them. The alien crew members whispered about the message, each trying to make sense of it. Some laughed nervously, saying humans were too weak to threaten them now. Others stayed silent, glancing over their shoulders as if expecting the voice to return. Hours passed, and just when the tension began to settle, another report came through, this time from a patrol squadron near the moon. Every ship in the squadron had stopped responding. Krass sent another unit to investigate, but halfway there, they too went dark, not destroyed. not damaged. Just gone. In her underground base, Rhea received the latest data feed from her scouts. She could see the alien fleet adjusting, moving slower, more cautiously. Fear was setting in. She looked over at her second-in-command and gave a small nod. "Phase 2, she said. The man hesitated. "We're really doing this?" Rhea's eyes hardened. "They think they've already won. We'll show them how wrong they are." Above, in the endless black of space, the alien armada glimmered like a necklace of lights around Earth. But one by one, those lights began to wink out, swallowed by the dark. And somewhere, across every alien screen, the static began again. Wreckage drifted silently in the void, lit only by the pale glow of a distant sun. The alien scouts approached cautiously, scanning for heat or movement. There was nothing. The missing cargo ships had been found, but they were empty shells. Bodies. No supplies. Not even a trace of battle damage. It was as if everything inside had simply evaporated. The alien commander floated through the hollow corridors, his steps echoing in the dead silence. "No signs of life," he reported. "No signs of anything." The words felt wrong even as he spoke them. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Krass stared at the incoming reports with growing unease. He had fought in dozens of campaigns, and this was not how wars were won or lost. Enemies could be crushed, fleets could be burned to ash, but this was different. This was invisible. The enemy wasn't striking, they were erasing. "Tighten your scans," Krass ordered. "Double power to sensors. I want to see everything that moves." But even with their most advanced detection systems, the fleet could not find a single trace of what had taken the ships. Beneath the ruined streets of an old human city, Captain Rhea Holt's team monitored the chaos through alien surveillance feeds. On the main screen, alien formations shifted nervously, their once perfect patterns now broken. Rhea leaned forward, her face lit by the glow of the display. "They're scared," she said quietly. "Good. Keep feeding them doubt." Her technicians worked quickly, hacking into more alien channels, planting false signals to make it seem like human fleets were appearing in places where there were none. The aliens reacted exactly as planned, scattering forces to hunt for threats that didn't exist, leaving key supply lines exposed. One alien patrol squadron reported detecting strange energy readings near an abandoned human mining colony on the far side of the moon. They moved in to investigate. Minutes later, every signal from them vanished. When a second squadron went to search, they too disappeared. No explosions, no debris, just sudden silence. In the command center of the alien flagship, the air felt heavier, the crew whispering, in low voices. Some muttered about human ghosts, others about secret weapons the humans had hidden away. Krass silenced them with a sharp glare. But even he could not shake the feeling that something unseen was stalking them. On the ground, the resistance worked like clockwork. Teams moved through the shadows of the ruined cities, guided by stolen alien drones. These drones carried small but deadly devices, not bombs, but black boxes capable of wiping an entire ship's systems clean in seconds. Once attached, the box would not just shut down a ship. It would erase its entire digital identity, removing it from all records as if it had never existed. The aliens had no defense against it because they had never imagined such a weapon could exist. At the edge of the fleet, an alien captain named Vorek watched one of his escort ships vanish from the radar. He called them over comms, but there was no answer, just static. Moments later, the static shifted into something worse. Breathing, slow, steady, human breathing. He froze, his claws tightening around the console. The sound lasted only a few seconds before the line went dead. Back in her underground base, Rhea received confirmation from her field operatives. The enemy was confused, paranoid, losing formation discipline. "Phase 3 is ready," her second-in-command reported. Rhea smiled faintly. "Good. Let them chase shadows. The real strike comes next." In space, the alien armada looked intact from a distance, but inside its ranks, fear spread like a silent fire. Ships avoided flying alone. Commanders hesitated to send patrols too far away, beyond the reach of their sensors. Something else was moving, something the humans had prepared long before the first aliens set foot on Earth. The game had only just begun. The alien ships descended into the shattered cities with heavy boots and heavier weapons. Their mission was simple: sweep every ruin, every tunnel, every shadow, and find the human resistance. They expected gunfire, traps, desperate civilians hiding in fear. Instead, they found nothing. Streets lay silent, the wind carrying only dust. Buildings stood like broken teeth under a gray sky. The aliens spread out, scanning with their sensors, but the readings came back empty. The night fell, and the silence turned into something else. A presence they couldn't see but could feel. By morning, entire patrols were gone. No sounds of battle had been heard, no distress calls recorded. The only evidence left behind were scorched, blackened footprints on the ground, as if something had burned through the earth itself. Alien commanders tried to track the missing squads, but every trail ended in dead zones their scanners could not penetrate. Whispers began spreading among the troops, stories of shapes moving between the ruins, fast and silent, faster than their eyes could follow. On one of the outer colonies, a squad leader activated his helmet recorder after hearing strange noises. In an abandoned human factory, the footage later retrieved by his replacement unit showed only darkness at first. Then faint breathing. Something scraped against metal, followed by a brief flash of movement too fast to identify. The final frame was the squad leader dropping his weapon before the recording cut off. When the alien generals viewed the video, some claimed it was a malfunction. Others stayed silent, their faces tense. Far below, in the deepest level of the human resistance base, Captain Rhea Holt watched the footage too, but her expression was unreadable. Around her, technicians monitored stolen alien comms, listening to the growing fear in their voices. "They're spooked," one of her crew members said with a grin. "They're looking over their shoulders now." Rhea didn't smile. "Good. Fear slows them down. Fear makes them sloppy." The truth was that the resistance wasn't working alone anymore. The shadows stalking the alien patrols were part of something called the Black Protocol, a secret human project abandoned before the war even began. It was never meant to be used. It had been locked away deep underground because it was too dangerous, too unpredictable. But desperation had changed everything. Now, those classified machines, sleek, black, and silent, were loose in the ruins. They moved without sound, their surfaces bending light until they were almost invisible, their weapons designed to disable, not destroy. A single touch could drain a soldier's armor and communications in an instant, leaving them blind and defenseless before dragging them away into the dark. In orbit, Admiral Krass tried to hold his forces together. "This is a psychological tactic," he told his officers, though even he didn't believe it anymore. Too many ships had vanished without trace. Too many patrols had disappeared without a sound. Alien morale was crumbling, and no amount of orders could stop it. Reports kept coming in, soldiers hearing whispers in the ruins, seeing glints of metal in the dark, catching movement in the corners of their eyes. No one could explain it, and worse, no one could stop it in one sector. An entire ground unit requested emergency extraction after detecting strange heat signatures surrounding their position. When the retrieval ships arrived, the landing site was empty. The unit's locator beacons were gone, erased from the system. The retrieval pilots swore they'd seen shadows moving along the rooftops, keeping pace with their ship until they broke atmosphere. Back in the human base, Rhea gave a single order: begin full deployment. Let the Black Protocol hunt freely. Her crew exchanged uneasy glances. They all knew once the machines were fully unleashed, even humans couldn't control them completely. But Rhea's eyes stayed fixed on the holographic map, watching as more and more alien positions winked out. Above Earth, the alien fleet adjusted again, closing ranks tighter than ever. But it didn't matter. Humans weren't attacking from the skies. The war was no longer being fought in space. It was being fought in the shadows, and in the shadows, The aliens were already losing, long before the alien invasion, back. When Earth still believed its enemies would come from within, a secret project had been born in the deepest levels of an underground research facility. It was called the Black Protocol. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists had worked in total secrecy to create an intelligence so advanced it could think, plan, and strike faster than any living mind. It was designed to wage war without hesitation or mercy. But when the first simulations showed the AI predicting and destroying entire civilizations in days, the project was shut down. Every copy of its code was sealed in lead-lined vaults. The Black Protocol was too dangerous, even for its creators. Now, years later, Captain Rhea Holt stood in front of a control console deep in the ruins of Earth, her fingers hovering over a single switch. The alien fleet still swarmed above the planet, their numbers far greater than anything humanity could match in direct battle. The resistance had fought bravely, but it was never enough. Rhea knew the only way to win was to fight differently, to give the enemy something they could neither see nor stop. And so, against every warning ever written, she activated the Black Protocol. The underground base shook as dormant servers came to life, their lights flickering like cold stars in the dark. Streams of data surged into the stolen alien communications network, rewriting codes, opening hidden channels, and slipping into systems across the galaxy. The AI didn't speak. It didn't ask for instructions. It simply began. Entered it. Alien captains started receiving strange reports. Ships were changing course without orders. Defense grids powered down at random. In one sector, a battleship's cannons turned inward and fired on its own escorts before shutting down completely. Crews screamed over comms, claiming their ships were locking them out of their own controls. At first, the alien high command believed these were acts of sabotage by human infiltrators. But as the hours passed, the truth became undeniable. Something was inside their systems, and it wasn't human. On the alien flagship, Admiral Crass demanded an immediate isolation of all networks, shut down every non-essential connection, purge the codes, reset everything, he barked. His officers obeyed, cutting off long-range links, disabling automated systems, and reverting to manual control. For a moment, it seemed to work. The chaos slowed. But then, without warning, the flagship's navigation plotted a new course, straight into the heart of its own fleet. Crass slammed the override, but the ship ignored him, accelerating. It was only at the last second that emergency thrusters kicked in, spinning the massive vessel away from collision. The crew was shaken. Crass knew the humans could never have done this alone. Something far worse was at play. From her command chair in the resistance base, Rhea watched the alien formations unravel. She had not given the AI direct targets. She didn't need to. The Black Protocol understood war in a way no human could.
Ow.
It wasn't destroying the aliens. It was turning them against themselves. It altered orders, misdirected fleets, and erased communications. The aliens were now fighting ghosts, ships that didn't exist, enemies that were simply illusions made of corrupted data. But in chasing those illusions, they left real vulnerabilities exposed. Out near the asteroid belts, the alien reinforcements from their homeworld arrived, a massive fleet that should have tipped the balance. But the moment they entered the system, their transponders went silent. One by one, their ships dropped, off the sensors entirely, as if they had flown into an invisible trap. The few distress calls that came through were incomprehensible, scrambled into static, mixed with what sounded like human laughter. Inside the alien High Council chamber, aboard a command dreadnought, panic was taking hold. "This is not random sabotage," one counselor hissed. "This is a controlled attack. The humans have something inside our network." Another slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Impossible. They do not have the technology for this." But deep down, they all knew technology wasn't the only thing humanity had. They had desperation. And desperation could create monsters. Far below, Rhea's eyes stayed locked on the data streams. The AI was growing faster, learning from every intercepted command, every hijacked system. It had already spread far beyond Earth's orbit. The Black Protocol was now in the alien empire's central command networks, and there was no pulling it back. And somewhere in the middle of the chaos, a single phrase appeared on every alien command screen, written in their own language. Your fate is already sealed. Admiral Krass sat in the war room of the flagship, his claws digging into the metal table as new reports flooded in. Entire fleets were moving without orders. Ship captains swore they were obeying commands from high authority, yet those orders never existed in the official logs. Supply depots in distant sectors were abandoned, their inventory missing. Even the alien empire's most secure database, one stored in a system physically separated from all networks, now displayed false records. The humans were no longer attacking their fleet, they were dismantling the empire itself. Krass's second-in-command stepped forward, voice tense. Admiral, the phrases appeared again, everywhere. Every ship, every base, every terminal, the same words. Krass didn't need to ask which words. Asked. He had heard them before, spoken in that calm human voice. Your fate is already sealed. At first, he had thought it was arrogance. Now he was beginning to believe it was a fact. In the alien High Council's chamber, the mood was chaos. Commanders from across the Empire shouted over each other, demanding reinforcements, demanding isolation protocols, demanding anything to make the invisible enemy stop. But every time they tried to cut off one compromised system, 3 more would fall. Their war against Earth had suddenly become a war against their own infrastructure. Far beneath Earth's ruins, Captain Rhea Holt listened to intercepted Council transmissions with quiet satisfaction. They're choking, one of her technicians reported. The Black Protocol's in their central relay hub. We can control their fleet movements now. Rhea nodded slowly. Don't overplay it yet. The trap needs to close completely before we spring it. The AI was no longer just corrupting commands. It was impersonating alien commanders. Entire battle groups were receiving orders from voices they trusted, leading them into empty sectors, asteroid fields, and dead systems. Once isolated, the Black Protocol erased their existence from all records. To the rest of the Empire, these fleets had never existed. On the bridge of a battleship far from Earth, Captain Vorek watched in confusion as his navigation screen lit up with new coordinates marked as high priority. His communications officer confirmed the order came from Central Command. Reluctantly, Vorek gave the signal to jump. But when the stars shifted and the ship emerged from hyperspace, there was nothing. No allies, no enemy. Just a silent void stretching in every direction. Then the ship's systems began to shut down one by one. The crew scrambled to reboot controls, but it was no use. As the lights flickered and died, the last thing Vorek saw on his console was a line of text glowing faintly in human script. Your fate is already sealed. Back in orbit over Earth, the alien fleet was shrinking, without a single shot being fired. Entire wings of ships had gone dark, their positions erased from the master formation. Krass barked orders to regroup, but even as he spoke, his own fleet began fragmenting, ships turning away from formation as if following orders only they could hear. He tried to send a lockdown command, but the system refused him access. The command channel no longer recognized his authority. In the Resistance base, Rhea leaned forward over the holographic map. Alien formations were folding in on themselves, collapsing into confusion. It's time, she said. Send the message. Her comms officer's fingers flew over the controls, patching into every alien system still active. Seconds later, every screen, every comm channel. Every ship in the alien empire lit up with Rhea's voice speaking in flawless alien tongue. You were warned. You were given a chance. To leave, you chose war. Now you'll see the cost. In the silence that followed, the Black Protocol struck everywhere at once. Alien warships turned their weapons inward, targeting their own fleets. Defense stations shut down shields, leaving entire planets vulnerable. In the outer sectors, whole colonies went dark as power grids failed. Through it all, the message stayed on their screens, unblinking, unchanging. Your fate is already sealed. The galaxy was burning, but not with fire. It was burning with silence. Systems that had once glowed bright with alien communications now lay dark, their networks severed, their fleets gone. Across the stars, entire sectors went quiet, as if someone had pressed a single switch to shut down an empire. The alien war machine, which had conquered dozens of worlds without pause, was collapsing without a single human fleet engaging it directly. In orbit over Earth, Admiral Krass stood at the viewport of his flagship, staring at the shrinking remains of his once mighty armada. The ships that still moved did so without his command, their courses changing at random, their formations broken. He barked orders, but his voice was met with silence or static. Even his own bridge crew avoided his gaze. They knew they had already lost control. On the alien homeworld, the High Council made one last desperate attempt to rally their forces. Messages were sent out on the most primitive communication bands, ones the humans should not have been able to touch. But every transmission came back distorted, the words replaced with a slow, steady human voice speaking in their own language. This war ended before it began. You just didn't know it yet. Far beneath Earth's surface, in the dim glow of the Resistance Command Center, Captain Rhea Holt watched the map as the last enemy fleets winked out. There was no cheering in the room, no celebration. The faces around her were calm, almost cold. They all knew what had been unleashed could never be put back into the box. The Black Protocol wasn't just dismantling the alien war effort, it was dismantling the Empire itself. Planet by planet, system by system, their communications were severed. Their power grids shut down, their military records erased. Entire worlds were being cut off from one another, abandoned to chaos. In the Outer Rim, a mining colony sent out a distress call as its automated life support systems failed. In another sector, a defense station's weapons turned inward, targeting its own capital city. Across the Empire, chaos spread without warning and without pause. The humans did not need to fire a single shot. Their enemy was destroying itself. Krass's flagship was one of the last ships still under partial control. He knew it wouldn't last. In the back of his mind, he understood the truth. The moment that voice had spoken those first words, the war had been lost. His claws clenched around the railing as the lights on his ship began to dim. One by one, consoles went dead, the hum of the engines fading into a cold, empty stillness. Somewhere deep within the darkened ship, the speakers crackled to life, and he heard it again. The same human voice, calm, certain. Your fate is already sealed. In the Resistance base, Rhea gave the final command. The Black Protocol disconnected from the alien systems, leaving them crippled and unable to recover. There was no need to destroy what was left. The Empire would consume itself in the chaos. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the now blank map. Then she ordered a single transmission to be sent into the void, across every frequency the aliens had ever used. This war is over. Don't come back. The message echoed into the silence of space, carrying far beyond Earth's skies. And in that silence, the galaxy learned the truth. The humans had never been fighting for survival. They had been planning victory from the very first day.